Dangerously Incompetent reviews the T29 in World of Tanks. T29, USA's Tier 7 heavy tank, is notorious for having a really tough front turret. For more details in its armour layout and noting all its weak spots, see my armour guide. But briefly, hull armour, 100 on the front, is okay. It's not going to stop any Tier 7 heavies if you go toe-to-toe with them, so you really don't want to expose your hull. Side of the hull, 76, a bit weak, but you do have massive tracks to help cover it to absorb some shots. Turret is good, all round good. 127 on the side, 102 on the rear, 279 on the front, and it's that massive mantlet as well that makes it practically impenetrable from the front. However, if you've managed to hide your hull, you're only exposing your mantle in front of your turret. Commander's cupola is a weak spot that people will shoot. Maneuverability is actually okay for a heavy tank, but it's poor in battle compared to everyone else. It's a slow top speed, 35 kilometers an hour, low specific power, so going up hills is really painful. Playing peekaboo is not really on. It takes you so long to pull out and then pull back in again because the acceleration's bad because of the low specific power. You're paying for all that heavy armour in that turret. Gun-wise, there are two usable guns on this thing, the second and the third guns, and they're pretty decent. Not great, but decent. Top gun, slow rate of fire, good penetration with AP, decent amount of damage. And here comes the really bad part. Accuracy, it's pretty inaccurate. Even when you're fully aimed in, you're not going to be doing much sniping with this thing. And when you do, you'll be happy you've hit the tank. You won't expect to hit weak spots. It's not very accurate. But it's got decent damage and great penetration. The second gun actually has a higher DPM because it's got a better rate of fire. It's got lower penetration with its AP, but its gold munitions have almost exactly the same. Only 2 points difference on average penetration. So this gun becomes eminently usable, provided you're willing to spend extra credits or gold to fire the premium munitions. Damage is lower, but the accuracy is considerably better. Aiming time's the same, but the starting accuracy and the end accuracy are better. So overall, it can be a toss-up which gun you want to use, because this is almost as effective. Same penetration, better rate of fire, better DPM, but it's got better accuracy, but lower alpha. And higher alpha is very effective in World of Tanks. So all in all, I would recommend getting to the top gun, and that's the one I've been using. The other thing about the gun is it's got great depression, -10, which helps you crest fight, which helps you keep your hull hidden or really slow-peed because your rear end is down, which also helps hide your commander's cupola. All useful. So it's a very nice combination of decent gun depression, and heavy turret armour. Very nice combination there. That is the outstanding part of this tank. It's what it's notorious for and what it's good at. Camouflage, pretty poor. It's heavy after all, and it's nice and big. View range is 380, is okay. Equipment, what equipment would I recommend with this tank? Vertical stabilizer, because it can. and it's so horrendously useful. It makes your shots that much more accurate. Don't leave home without it. Second choice is either the gun rammer, as I've got here for extra speed in shooting, or the enhanced gun laying drive for better accuracy, so more of your shots count, you've got more chance to hit. It's a toss-up between the two. Third slot, even more choices. I went for the toolbox because those big fat tracks of yours do eat a lot of hits. Smaller tanks, lights and mediums will try and knock your tracks off to make you an even easier, bigger sitting duck for artillery and their heavies and TDs. Your attacks will be shot off a lot, and you don't want to be stationary letting people shoot at your side. So repairing your tracks as fast as possible is a good thing, which is why I mounted the toolbox. Other choices are improved ventilation, which help particularly with your accuracy with your gun. You are a big sitting duck and you're quite slow, and you're not much armour on it. Well, no tank has much armour on its engine deck or the very top of its turret, which makes you a delightful target for SPGs, which is why you may want to fit the heavy spool liner and reduce the amount of damage they do with their high explosives. Other options, what was going on? Optics, not really. Your view range is pretty good, and even in random battles where you can't rely on anyone else spotting for you, really, the other stuff is more important. That's my opinion anyway. It's no good for you spotting other tanks that are far away because your gun isn't accurate enough to find their weak spots to shoot them when they're far away. And if they're close, they'll have given themselves away by shooting, so the extra optics don't really help much. Skills. Don't take much notice of the skills I've got and their pattern because they're a mess. For ages I used this tank I played it for ages, trained my crew up in it, and then moved them on, and then you use the tank as a training tank because I didn't have an American Premium at the time. So I was robbing individual crew members and putting another new novice in, so they're a mess. But what skills you want are the ever popular Sixth Sense, Snapshot, and Smooth Ride to improve your initial accuracy, which helps you get those shots in, get the damage in by shooting quickly. For the rest of the crew, for their first skill, either go for repairs. As I mentioned, your tracks come off a lot and you don't want that. You want them at least try and be mobile. Or camouflage. When you're bottom tier in this tank, your hull really can't hack it. And there are so many mediums and heavies that zoom around faster than you. If you're up close and personal, they can get around you and do enough damage to rip you apart quite quickly. So the only way to not take damage, you can't go toe to toe. You can still get hull down and only expose your mantlet, provided there's no artillery dropping shells on you. That works, but other than that, the only way to not suffer damage is not be shot by not being seen, which is why I've gone for camouflage. Second set of skills, fill up the rest of your crew with either repairs or with camouflage, depending on which you've taken first. And then third, brothers in arms, I think. How to play this tank. Number 1. The best use of this tank is hull down, preferably on a slope, employing that gun depression, making the front of your hull even more slopey and hiding the weak spot, and only exposing your monstrous mantlet. That is the real strength of this tank. That's what I believe I said. That's what it's notorious for. That's what will get the opposition cursing and swearing and calling you overpowered. If you do happen to meet a T29 in the hull down situation, leave it alone. Go away. Go somewhere else. Or rush it. Get round the side, shoot the side and rear. Don't play its game of letting it sit in the hollow or behind a ridge or behind something that hides its hull, and it'll just blam away at you. You'll spang off it and you'll die and it'll win. If you can't get to a lumps and bumps and all you've got is buildings and big rocks, then you side scrape. But it's not really side scraping because your sides aren't that great. You're track scraping really. You're relying on these big tracks to soak up hits, which is another reason for having a toolkit and your crew trained up in repairs. Because once your track has been shot off, then it's only your side armour. So you want that track back on again as fast as possible. If neither of those two options, hull down or side scraping, track scraping rather, is available, then you pray. Because you're big, you're slow, and your hull ain't great, and the sides particularly are weak to the tanks that will be facing you. If you're out in the open and surrounded, you're done for really. You don't want to go toe to toe with other heavy tanks, even other heavy tanks of your tier, because your hull ain't strong enough. They'll be looking down on it, so it's reducing the angling. It's only 100 mils thick. Your standard penetration will go straight through that, even angled at 45 degrees, straight through that. You might get a bounce if it's angled across the side as well as vertically, but it's unlikely. Comparing it to other tanks of its tier. Right, compared to the Black Prince, which is the British Tier 7 Heavy, the Black Prince has better DPM. It has less penetration and less alpha, but its aiming is better. Movement wise, the Black Prince is slower and the Black Prince's armour is a bit worse. It's roughly the same in its quantities on the hull and the turret, but it doesn't have that monstrous mantlet to protect it on the turret. The IS, Russian Tier 7 Heavy Tank, has better DPM, it has worse penetration, but bigger alpha, more boom, like many Russian tanks. And big alpha tends to rule World of Tanks. Aiming though, much worse. Movement wise, much better. It's a lighter tank all round, doesn't have as much armour, which means its armour is thinner and not as good. The Tiger 1, German Tier 7 Heavy Tank, has better DPM, it has better penetration, but worse alpha, and better aiming, much better aiming. So it's more accurate, more penetrating, more reliable at doing its damage. Its movement's about the same, but its armour is significantly worse, especially on the front parts. The Tiger 1 really is no brawler at all. Even going hull down, its front of the turret armour is nowhere near as good as the T29. Overall, I would say the T29 is roughly the same capabilities as its competitors at Tier 7, but in its niche it's much better. Its niche of course being gun mantlets. I mentioned how to play, I've already done that. How did I do with this tank? Pretty well, especially considering I played it heavily when I was new to the game, and then I played it heavily with untrained crews as I keep on WoT as I use it as a training tank. So a win rate of 58% is pretty good, pretty reasonable. I'm quite happy with it. Summary time. In summary, it's all about the mantlet. Until you realise that and learn to use it well, it's a mediocre heavy. But once you do, and you can get into your niche, then it's a great tank and gets the Dangerously Incompetent thumbs up.